What's going on, producers? Let's talk about how to practice piano so that it actually sticks. Because I know from personal experience, there's no worse feeling than spending hours or even days practicing something. And then you go to play it the next week or maybe even the next day, and it's like you never practiced it at all. So in today's video, I want to give you the 7 best practice hacks that have helped myself and have helped my students see consistent progress and lasting improvement so that what you work on actually sticks. By the way, that's supposed to be like a strong emoji, but it looks more like a weird rubber ducky. Hack number 1, pick 2 areas of focus per week and only work on that. Why is this important? Well, doing everything at once is a recipe for doing nothing at all. Let me explain to you what I mean. We all have the same amount of time in the day, the same amount of bandwidth. We can only give 100% of our energy and our effort towards something. So if I'm trying to get better at piano and piano is in the middle of my circle, I can give piano 100% of my focus. And now I'm going to excel at piano really quickly because I'm literally doing nothing else. I'm getting better through exclusion. I'm not trying to add everything on my plate. I'm actually saying no to everything else and I'm just focusing on piano and the highest priority things that I can do that's gonna move my piano skills forward. Versus if I wanted to get better at piano, I also wanted to get better at mixing, I also wanted to get better at singing, I also wanted to get better at guitar, and I also wanted to get better at the ukulele. Now my pie looks something like this, and I can only give 20% effort to each one of these things, and now I'm just doing everything half-assed. I'm gonna suck at guitar, I'm gonna suck at mixing, I'm gonna suck at singing, I'm gonna suck at ukulele, and I'm gonna suck at piano. So I think I'm being productive by doing all these things, but I'm actually just
sucking at everything.
Now, if we go back to the last example, if you're just focusing on one thing and giving that 100% of your energy, that would be the ideal situation, but we're human, and I find that that drives me insane. So what I like to do personally is I like to split this circle of focus into 2. That way I'm giving 50% of my effort and energy into number 1 and also into number 2. Now, that's not 100%, right? That's really reduced, but it keeps me sane because I can toggle between these 2 things and it keeps it fresh, it keeps it exciting, it keeps it invigorating, and I'm able to move forward and actually make progress on these things by doing only 2 things and not trying to do everything all at once. So I'll let you know what this looks like for me musically in my life right now. Area number 1 is piano and area number 2 is trumpet. Now here's the crucial point. Whenever I sit down to practice or whenever I sit down to work on my skills to better myself, it means I'm not producing. This means I'm not writing songs. This means I'm not playing guitar. This means I'm not practicing vocals. This means I'm not trying to write rap lyrics or song lyrics for that matter. All things that do serve me and my career. But right now in this season of life, piano and trumpet are most important to me and I need to make those priorities. And this circle of focus really allows you to define your priorities. And when I can stick to working on piano and when I can stick to working on trumpet for an extended period of time, and when I say that, I don't mean for 2 weeks. I mean for 3 months, 6 months, dare I say a year. And when you immerse yourself in this learning and for a long period of time, you say no to everything else and you say yes to just these 2 things, your skills in these 2 areas skyrocket and you increase your baseline level of skill so that when you let go of piano for a little bit or whatever's in your personal circle of focus, when you go to do that thing after some time off, maybe you'll just need to shake the rust off a little bit, but your floor
For how much you suck
has risen. Just your average day of playing or writing or producing or whatever it is that you've been working on, your baseline level of skill increases. So your floor is higher than everybody else's because you spent a long period of time working on that to the exclusion of everything else. And this is what I like to call immersive learning. So not only do you narrow your focus in the micro from a day-to-day perspective or from a week-to-week perspective, but you also do it in the macro 4, 5, 6 months, 9 months, an entire pregnancy. When's the last time you stuck with something for 9 months? I'm gonna let you sit with that one for a second.
Many months later.
Practice hack number 2. This tip comes from one of the greatest jazz saxophonists of all time, Mr. Charlie Parker. This one quote has so much wisdom in it. Practice it until you can't get it wrong. Sounds cool, right? But what does that actually look like? What I found personally is the road to practicing something until you can't get it wrong. If you think about it, that's where you want to be. Like if you're in the DAW and you're laying down your ideas, you don't want to be there for 20 takes until you finally get it right. Like that wastes so much time. You want to just be able to have the idea in your head, play it, and move on to the next thing and have it be dope. Not everything comes in one take. You don't want to sit there for 25 takes trying to find the right thing. Like that's just a complete waste of time.
Yo, what are you doing, bro? That sounds whack.
And what I found is the road to practicing something until you can't get it wrong can be broken down into 3 phases. Phase 1 is learning. When you're doing something new,
You're gonna suck.
so just know that for the first 20 times you try something, you're gonna suck. You're not gonna get it right. It's new. You've never done it before. It's natural that
You're gonna suck.
like if you've never done a pull-up before, the first time you try to do a pull-up, you're probably not gonna do a pull-up. But if you keep trying day in and day out, you're eventually gonna be able to get halfway up. And then maybe you'll get 75% of the way up. And then after you finally try a couple more times, you'll get all the way up and you'll have done your first pull-up. And that feeling will be incredible. And now you have learned how to do a pull-up. It's the same way when you're practicing something. If you're sitting down on the keys and you're trying to learn something, just realize the first several attempts, you're gonna get it wrong and your brain is just going to be trying to keep up, right? There's a lot of things that are happening. Your brain is trying to memorize the information. Your fingers are trying to get it down. You keep kind of getting lost in the black and white keys. So just accept the fact that
You're gonna suck.
and get through that phase 1 so that we can get to phase 2. Phase 2, I like to call almost there, because phase 2 is where we're starting to get it right, but then we still get it wrong a little bit, right? We're starting to get it right, but then we get it wrong, we get it wrong, we get it wrong. Ooh, I got it right, I got it right, I got it wrong, I got it wrong, I got it right. And so we have this ratio of getting it right and also getting it wrong. We keep kind of going back and forth. And this is where most people stop. They practice something, they get it right once, and they're like, yo, I got it.
But if you really look at what it looks like you had to do it this many times wrong to finally get it right. And the amount of times that you've gotten it wrong versus the amount of times that you got it right,
like your body knows how to do it wrong more than it knows how to do it right. And then as you keep trying, it starts to look a little bit more like this, right? We're starting to even it out a little bit. We're getting it right, but we're still getting it wrong. But I'm getting it right a little bit more times, but I'm still getting it wrong. And that's what phase 2 looks like. And so if you really want to get something down, you need to push through the almost there phase as well until you get to the can't get it wrong phase. And what does the can't get it wrong phase look like? I'm getting it right. I'm getting it right. I'm just doing it again and again and again. And maybe, hey, one time, I lost my focus. One time I get it wrong. Let me regroup. I got it right. And now the ratio of getting it right to getting it wrong is completely flipped from the learning phase. And so we have to go from suck, kind of almost there, still sucking a little bit. I got it. Quick caveat here. It feels like this takes a long time because as you're working on it, you may spend an entire day, an entire 2 days, an entire week, maybe even an entire 2 weeks, and you may be only working on that thing. And it feels like,
dude, I'm not doing anything else. I'm sucking. I'm falling behind. I could be working on this. I could be working on that. All I'm doing is focusing on this one stupid thing.
But working on that one stupid thing is actually improving multiple areas of your musicianship. And also, working on that one stupid thing for this short period of time in your life means you'll never have to work on it again because you put in the work to not get it wrong. You've ingrained it in your fingers. You've ingrained it in your mind. You've ingrained those neural pathways to just be able to play that thing as easy as you're speaking. And so when you work on music like this, that's when you get it like it's second nature. Practice hack number 3, slow equals fast. So we can kind of see this parallel with what I was just talking about before. Like when you spend a lot of time on something, it feels like you're moving very, very slowly, but from a macro perspective, you're actually moving very quickly. Yes, that's true, but that's not exactly what I mean by this one. When you're trying to learn something and you put the metronome on at 30 BPM or at 40 BPM, that is when you get incredible gains. Because most people, when they first learn something, right? they want to play it right at that tempo. But again, you've never played it before. And so trying to play it at that speed with notes you've never played before, possibly in a key you've never played in before, using chords you've never played before, using fingerings you've never done before, with patterns you are unfamiliar with, that's a lot for your brain to process all at the same time. And so being kind to my brain and giving it the space. Now, if that's still too fast, you want to slow it down. Now, I like putting the metronome on halftime like that because it helps train your rhythm a little bit better. So let's put it at 50 and let's see what that feels like. When I do it that slowly, I give my brain time to process everything I need to. And if I need to slow it down further, slow it down further. But what you can do is you can play it at that tempo, then you can increase by 5, go to 55, play it. Go to 60, play it. Go to 65, play it. Go to 70, play it. And just increase by 5 incrementally. Again, this is a slow process. And so if I'm going through that, up by 5, up by 5, up by 5, until I hit my limit where I can't play it, like I just keep messing up, I can't get it right at that tempo, that's where I've hit my ceiling. And that process can take a little bit. It can take 20 minutes. It can take 30 minutes. But guess what? The next day when you come to play that, it's going to feel so much more ingrained in your fingers, so much more ingrained in your mind. And maybe you won't be able to play it at your ceiling tempo right away, but you'll be able to break through that ceiling. If you do this process, depending on how hard, whatever it is you're working on, for 2 to 4 days in a row, that thing is going to be so down in your hands, you almost will never have to work on it again. So anything you're currently having trouble with, just take the metronome and slow it way down. Slow it down until you can't mess it up, until it's so easy that you're thinking what toppings you want on your pizza while you're practicing it. And then from there, increase by 5 incrementally. Practice hack number 4, use a timer. This one is incredibly simple. Paying attention is the hardest thing to do. Have you ever sat down and just focus on your breath? Before you know it, your mind is thinking about other things and you're like, oh snap, I was trying to focus on my breath. And then you focus on your breath, and then before you know it, you're lost in thought again. And then you come back and you come back and you go. It's really hard to just focus on something. And when you're practicing, if you're not focused while you're practicing, you're not getting as much as you can out of it, and you're actually hurting your gains. So one way that I've personally found to really train my focus is by using a timer. Because much like when you're trying to meditate and just, focus on your breath, or maybe focus on the sounds you're hearing or whatever it is, focus on your physical sensations, you find your mind thinking about something else. It's the same thing with practice. You come and sit down and you're like, okay, I'm gonna work on this one chord progression. And then like 10 minutes later, you're making a beat. And that doesn't help anybody. I mean, yeah, there are times where like you're practicing something and then you hit something wrong and that inspires an idea and you go and make a beat or you start making a song. And that's really cool. Like we wanna follow inspiration when that happens. But if that happens every single time you're trying to practice and improve your skills, you're never gonna get better. So focus is the key. And using a timer is a tool that will allow you to focus more effectively. So I like to use the timer in different ways. Number 1, for very, very small amounts of time. And number 2, for longer amounts of time. So if I'm having a day where I really don't feel like getting to it and doing what I need to do, whether it's on the piano, whether it's production, whether it's trumpet, I'll put on a timer for 1 minute. And I will give myself the permission to say, when this timer is up, I can get up and I can go do whatever I want to do. But for this 1 minute, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to play that exercise I know I need to play through. For this 1 minute, I'm going to go flesh out that loop I made yesterday. And usually what ends up happening is after 1 minute, I want to keep going. And sometimes that just turns into 5 minutes. Sometimes that turns into half an hour. Sometimes it turns into 2 hours. But by tricking myself with just the 1 minute on those days where I just can't bring myself to do what I want to do, I find that to be incredibly effective. Now, more in line with having the timer be a tool for focus, I'll put on the timer for 5 minutes and then just work on one thing for 5 minutes. Or sometimes I like to do 10 minutes, but you'd be surprised at how putting the timer on for 5 minutes can be rather difficult when you're trying to work on something very, very specific. So let's say I want to get some left hand voicings down, right? And I'm playing these chords. Much like meditation, I might make a flub up, or I might, get tired of the mental energy it requires to challenge myself and really try to get something down and go through those 3 phases as I was talking about before. So I'll start noodling around and maybe I'll start playing other things. But what I notice is when I use the timer and I say, okay, for 5 minutes or for 10 minutes, it could be 7 minutes, the number is kind of arbitrary, right? You can put it whatever you want. I'm gonna do this for 5 minutes. I'm really gonna focus on these chords and do them for 5 minutes and really get it down. And maybe I'm taking it through a couple keys. So I'll do the same thing over here, right? And I say, I'm gonna do this for 5 minutes. Dude, that sounds like dumb. But what you'll notice is like 2 minutes into it, 3 minutes into it, you're gonna get that hit to grab your phone and go on Instagram. You're gonna be like,
oh, I should finish that beat I made. Oh, this chick said this weird thing to me the other day. Oh, snap, I didn't call my mom back.
like you're gonna have all these thoughts that come to you that are gonna distract you from what it is you're doing. But the trick here is when you have that thought, you're like, wait, has my timer gone off yet? No? Take that thought, put it to the side, I can deal with it later. Right now, this is what I'm focused on. That's how you're able to level up your skill set. Now, one of the other ways I like to use the timer is I like to put it on for an extended amount of time. So like for 45 minutes. And I usually like to do this specifically, this is just a personal thing, but when I'm learning something, when I'm transcribing something, be it like a solo or a chord progression or a song or a bass line or something, I like to put on the timer for 45 minutes or maybe 30 minutes, press play on the song, and I don't turn off the music the whole time. Depending on how hard the thing is, you know, it may take me the majority of that time to learn it, right? Depending on how hard it is, depending how long it is, whatever. Or I may learn it relatively quickly. But for that 30 or 45 minutes, I just keep doing it over and over again. And I have fun with it because music is fun, right? When I'm first learning something, yeah, it may be a little frustrating. I'm like, damn it, I keep getting it wrong. Like I know I got it. I'm like right there to get it under my fingers. But if you just sit with it, you keep letting the music come. When you get frustrated, you remind yourself, man, I love music. Like these sounds just sound awesome. Like I'm vibing, boom, boom, I'm doing my thing. Those 30 and 45 minutes end up being a joy. And they end up being so productive and so much fun. Because as you're learning something hopefully that you like. And so you're getting some vocabulary down and you're like, man, I really like how I'm sounding right now because I like how that record sounds. I'm learning what that record is. And like, dude, I'm feeling really proud of myself in the way that I sound. And when you just allow yourself to feel good as you're getting better, as you're improving, even if it's just by one little tiny percentage point, man, that really helps your mental health. It really helps your confidence. And it really helps your motivation to get back in there and do it again the next day. Because you know, if you just keep doing that, you start to see the results stack on it. Then you're like, well, these results came from this action. I'm gonna do this action. I keep getting the results. I'm gonna do this action. I keep getting these results. And it's like this positive flywheel that just keeps going up. We've all been in the negative one where we're like,
Man, I suck. I'm never gonna get this right.
and then you don't do the thing. But if you don't do the thing, you're just guaranteed not to get it right. So I much rather prefer that positive flywheel than the other one because I lived in the other one for a really long time and it sucked. So if you're not used to using a timer, maybe 45 minutes is a lot at first. Maybe put it on for 20 minutes, put on a song you want to learn and just start jamming to that thing. Don't just noodle your way through the song. Use that 20 minutes to be productive. Let's say you're learning a bass line. Once you've learned it, keep doing it over and over again. Do it to the record. Focus on the rhythm. Focus on the notes. See how you can mess with the bass line a little bit. See how you can play with it. Maybe you can improv with it a little bit. So you're not just doing the same exact thing again and again and again. Hey, maybe turn the music off and put a metronome on and try it really slowly and do that thing for a little bit and then put the music back on, see how that works. Like play with it, have fun, be creative, explore. Inside those 20 minutes, inside those 45 minutes, just explore in that limitation. Like explore everything you can do with that bass line. If you're learning a melody, explore everything you can do with that melody. If you're learning a chord progression, play it up here, play it down here. See if you can substitute one chord for another. See if you can throw a passing chord in there. There's so many different things that you can do. You don't have to just play the same thing in the same exact way again and again and again. I find those 45-minute sessions to be so much fun because of what I just said, and you're only limited by your creativity. Practice hack number 5, have review sessions every 2 weeks or so. So every 2 weeks, every 3 weeks, maybe every month, have just a day or two where you just review all the stuff that you learned. So if you've been working on chord progressions, if you've been working on some songs, if you've been working on getting comfortable in the scales, specific chord voicings, whatever it is, the way that you're gonna have that thing stick long term is if you revisit it every so often. So for example, if you just learned the chords to this new song and you spent like a day or 2 or 3 or 4 on it and you were trying to get it under your fingers and then you never look at it again for like 2 months, of course you're gonna fall off on it a little bit. Like that's completely natural. But if you spend 3 or 4 or 5 days on it and you let it go for a little bit and then like 2 weeks later you just kind of revisit it real quick for 5-10 minutes and then 2 weeks later again, 3 weeks later you revisit it again for 5 or 10 minutes, what you're gonna notice is that it's gonna stick a little bit more. And if you've been consistent with your practice, you're also gonna find different ways to go about about the same thing that you just learned, and it'll be a lot better than when you first learned it. So this is literally the easiest thing that you can do. Just review what you learned every 2-3 weeks. That's how you're gonna get it to stick for a long period of time. But Bruce, how do I remember what I've been working on? Well, that brings me to practice hack number 6. Keep a journal. Literally, just buy a notebook, right, like this. It doesn't have to be anything fancy, and you could just write in it all the stuff that you've been working on. And so what I would highly recommend is that you put the date on it, and you write what you worked on that day, how long you worked on it, and how it felt. And man, this has so many impacts that you have no idea. You can look back and you can feel proud of all that work you've put in. You can also look back and be like, oh shit, that's right, I learned that thing. Let me go review that real quick. Boom, boom, boom. You can see your improvement over time, which is incredibly motivating. And also, if there's a period of time where you're not feeling as good, you're not feeling as in it, you can look back at the time when you were and you can see what you were doing, and you're like, oh yeah, I was doing those things. That's why I was getting those results. Let me do those again. Every time we're in a practice session or if we're working on something, we think we're gonna remember this later. And then you never do. Like, how many times have you been at the gym listening to a song, you're like, ooh, I wanna learn that part. And then you can't even remember the song you listened to later? Like, you're never gonna remember. So if that's the case, we need to take a different action so that we actually remember. Because if we think we're gonna solve this problem that we've been having with the same actions that we've been taking, that's stupid. If you want something different, you need to do something different. So case in point, keep a journal. And last but not least, practice hack number 7, sing everything you play. There's a saying that piano is the mother of all instruments, and I completely agree, because everything is laid out here for you, and if you can understand it on the piano, like the better you get at piano, the better you get at literally any other instrument you play. And if piano is the mother, I would argue that singing is the grandmother. And she a gilf though. Because the voice is the instrument that everybody has. It's literally inside your body. And while piano is absolutely fantastic, I have to press on the key for a sound to happen. Whereas with singing, like I'm using my actual body as the instrument. And so the way that I connect to music is much, much deeper than when I'm playing the piano. So when you sing what you play, if you're learning a bass line and you sing it, or if you're learning a chord progression and you sing the bass notes, if you're learning a melody on the piano and you sing that melody, if you're learning a scale and you sing those notes going up and down, you really ingrain it into your musical DNA and it becomes a part of you way more than if you don't sing it. And the whole goal of practicing and getting better is so that we can hear things and play them. We can take what we're hearing in our head and put it on the piano easily and effortlessly without guessing. And when you sing what you play, you expedite that process because you hear something, whether it's in your head or whether it's on a record, you're like,
Oh, I know those notes.
boom, 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 and you play them. And can you get that connection without singing? Sure, but it's gonna take you a heck of a lot longer. When you sing it, that connection just happens so much quicker. And yes, it takes more effort, and not that you have to be an opera singer. As long as you can match pitch, that's all you need. While it does require more effort and you may be a little bit embarrassed, it is so fucking worth it. So those are the 7 things that if you actually do these things, they will completely transform your musicianship. Have 2 areas of focus every single week. Play it until you can't get it wrong. Slow equals fast. Use a timer. Have consistent review sessions. Keep a journal and log everything you do and sing what you play. Now here's what makes me sad. Most of you watching this video are not gonna do any of this. You're gonna be like, oh, that was really great. And then you're not gonna change your actions at all. You're not gonna change anything you do. And again, that's stupid, because if you don't change what you do, if you don't change the actions you're taking, you're not gonna change the results you get. So what I would highly recommend that you do is not try just all of this at once. That can feel overwhelming. And so what I would recommend that you do is whatever resonates with you the most, as I was describing each of these principles, start adopting that one, or start adopting 2 of them and do it every single day. Because once you do that, you're gonna start to see the results. It's gonna start to become a habit, and then you can bring one more of these into your daily practice. And the whole goal of all of this, again, is to increase your baseline level of skill. We don't want to be sitting down practicing for hours and hours and hours and every day with no end goal in sight. What we want to do is put in some time so that we can increase our baseline level of skill, and then we don't have to put in that much time. All we have to do is kind of maintain what we've already built. So that way, when we go in the studio, when we're collabing with other people, when we're in our home studios making our tracks, we can play what we hear, we can play it easily, we can play it effortlessly without guessing, at a level where we feel confident in the sounds that we're making. This is what's gonna get you to that point. And if you want help knowing exactly what to do so that you can improve your chord game, you can improve your progressions, you can improve your melodies, you can improve your musicianship as a whole for music production, check out my Piano for Producers community in the description below. This is the best online community for modern producers to teach you modern piano skills. If you want a teacher who does what you do and keeps it real with no fluff, and a community of producers that are getting amazing results, then this is exactly what you need in your life. If you haven't seen my free masterclass that teaches you my approach to getting these modern piano skills, go ahead and check that out in the link below. And if you like what you learned there, Piano for Producers is the best next step you can take in terms of increasing your musicianship for modern music production and songwriting. My name is Bruce Beats. I'll see you on the next video.